All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 15, 14, 15, I think 15 of the Beginner to Master Azul series. Um, Before I jump into the games, I do want to talk about the last video a bit. Obviously, the goal of this series is to help you get better at Azul, and the quality of gameplay in the last video was not very high from me, so um, I do apologize for that. I don't want to waste your time and have you watch an hour worth of gameplay that you don't learn anything from. Um, on the other hand, uh, we all have off days, and the reality of playing this game or any game or um, doing anything in life, I suppose, is that sometimes you're just not going to be as sharp as you usually are, or, um, you know, maybe playing tired or in a rush or something. So, um, yeah, my goal with this series was always to upload every video or every game. So, there has not been a game on this account that you haven't seen the footage of, the commentary for. Um, so, it does. It really sucks to release a video of just three straight losses, and um, it's a little bit embarrassing given that um, I'm over here telling you that you can learn from me. So um, thanks for sticking with it. And um, obviously, like, I'm not a perfect player, and no one is. um, so I will make mistakes, and I guess the thing with a video like the last one is you can try to find those mistakes and see what would have been better, because there were a lot of them. Um, so yeah, let's jump into some games, and I'm gonna try to be a little more focused, play a little slower, go back to making sure that I am analyzing the round at the beginning of every round. I think I kind of noticed partway through the video that I was just jumping into plays sometimes, and um, not really thinking through the rounds, or maybe spending as much time in general thinking about plays. So I got through three games in like the time it normally takes to record two games. So maybe a sign that I was playing too quickly. But we'll see what we can do in this episode, and hopefully we get a game relatively quickly here. Yeah, I guess I forgot to note. So still at 510 ELO, so still in the expert range. If I lose this next game, maybe we will no longer be in the expert range. But hopefully that won't be the case. Okay. So 535, so around our rating range. Okay, so pretty balanced draw here. Things look pretty nice for the fourth column. Good number of blues, good number of whites. Getting three yellow should be pretty straightforward. So I think I'll go for row three yellow to start. Um, and I can always pivot. So depending on what my opponent does, maybe end up building the middle column. So they take one blue for the center. So I think what I'll do here is, I'm not really in a rush to finish row 3 yellow. And um, the blues, I could take two blue and then they take two blue and then, maybe they kind of group some yellows, put me in a stickier situation. So I'm actually just going to take some white um, for row 5. Okay, that was expected. I don't want to be in a situation where they take like I'm stuck with no blue because then there's been 5 blue and I have none of it. So I think I will take the blue now, and I guess I kind of ended up in the same situation that I was in, or that I would have been in if I had just taken the blue immediately, but had a little more flexibility. So um, yeah, here don't want to take the yellow and just give my opponent 4 black. So I think I'll take the black here. Um, and question of whether to play it on row 1 or row 2. I think let's stick with row 2 or with row 1. Possibility of getting 2 red. Okay, so my opponent takes 2 white. So now we're just playing black on row 2. If I were my opponent, I would have taken the yellow. So more worth it to prevent me from getting row 3 than to stack up this center, the top 3 rows. Okay, so what are we looking at here? This is a nice draw for us. There's a lot of red, which we like. We have a couple of options for blue row 4, which is nice. And our opponent's not going to be able to make much progress on black. So let's see what we want to do. I like the idea of potentially getting 2 red out of the way just to really lock that up, since it's kind of our most valuable tile this round. Okay. I'd like to try to get row 3 red in addition to row 4 blue. So I'm looking at like ways to make that happen. If I take 2 blue, then my opponent will probably take 2 blue for their row 2. It looks like that's what they're going for. And that'll put 2 red in the middle, and then 2 red on the edges. So that doesn't quite work out. But if I take a red now, and then we do that same 2 blue swap, then the 2 red group in the middle. So okay, let's just grab 2 blue first. So what can happen here is actually I can kind of trade row 3 red for row 3 yellow. So my opponent will get yellow, I'll get red. If they choose to take red, yeah, so we'll do this swap. We should end up slightly better here. Yep, so up by 5. That's a lot of white, which is good for us. We also want row 2 yellow. We should be okay there. And row 1 red should be okay there. Okay, so let's start with a white. Let's try to not group blacks if possible. Okay. So if I take a white and then my opponent takes the other white, that leaves all 5 yellows grouped together, which isn't great. So ideally I like complete my row 2 yellow before going after the single whites. Okay, so my opponent making a play to group the 3 reds together, presumably to hurt my row 1, which isn't bad. But we'll be able to potentially pick up row 3 black. So yeah, now we just play yellow or red on row 1. And it's not great. We took some negatives, but still kind of hurting their... Oh, that's interesting. So not sure why they chose yellow over red. Red is better for points for me. I guess maybe they're eyeing working on this right column. Okay, so things worth noting. There's only going to be 2 white in the next round. So I'm kind of incentivized to take like 2 white here instead of going for 2 blue. It's also nice because I'll have the first player tile going into the last round. My opponent wants 1 black, which would prevent them from finishing row 5 black. So maybe they'll kind of end up defending themselves on that. And then we should have some opportunities for row 3 blue. My opponent can't play blue at all. So we'll either be looking to take row 3 blue or dump all these blue on my opponent. They're also going to struggle to play these other yellows. So we can really do some damage with negatives here. And in fact, we could even work towards this column. So let's start with just grabbing our row 1 yellow. Okay, yeah, and now I'm just going to defend this black. So it prevents their row 1, it prevents their row 5, and we're like super flexible. Yeah, to the point where they're just throwing out 3 blue. Okay, so let's take 2. So there's only 4 blue left. So I need to be careful here because if I take 2 for row 3, then I want 1, 2, 3, 4, basically all 4 of them, which isn't ideal. But there's only 2 white, so I'm not going to be playing white on row 3. So it's actually fine, I think, to just grab this. Okay, so there's an interesting question here of, like, my opponent will play these reds if I give them to them, whereas they can't play the yellow. So the yellow is -7. It would be a 6-point play for me next round. So I think I should just take these reds and play them. And we'll play them. Yeah, I think row 4 makes the most sense. We can potentially score 4 points with them on row 4. Okay, so up by 11, entering the last round. And I don't think we need to get too cute here. We can just take the tiles we need. Okay. Question of whether to take this single black. Yeah, I think this is worth it. So basically, taking the single black means my opponent has to take both the 2 black and the 3 black, which means they're taking 3 blacks worth of negatives. So while they can group the 2 blues together and make it so that I can't get both row 1 and row 3, they are like almost forced to take these blacks. Okay, so this is like defending for, like, they're preventing me from scoring 4 points, but they're giving up, this is an 8, plus 2 is 10-point play, minus 4 is 6. So I think the black is more valuable to them than the red is to me. So they probably should not have chosen that path. Definitely some lucky tile draws for us. My opponent was like, all of the blacks came in the last round basically, so we got a little bit of help there, but yeah, ultimately a pretty healthy win. So nice to start the episode with a win. Feels a lot better than the last episode. So let's hope that we can keep rolling. Okay, striped leopard, 556. Okay, so a pretty heavy blue, white, yellow draw. To think a bit about how I want to play this. The options for 2 tiles are just blue and white. Again, it's like I could take 1 blue, put it on row 3, and then, but then if they take 2 blue, I'm kind of forced to take 2 blue, and then they get 3 white. So they would just get these 2 rows right away. So I don't particularly like that. Okay, I don't particularly want to try to just build column 4, like starting with 4 white or 2 white on row 5, for example. You know, they kind of instantly take 2 blue. I take 2 blue. That puts 3 yellows in the middle for them. So I'm hurt on yellows. So let's play row 4 white. This is like a little bit inflexible. But there's a lot of white, so we can be, as we see, reasonably confident that we'll be able to finish row 4, and we're like not putting ourselves in such a kind of dicey position with being left with like some of the challenges when there's like 6 or 5 of a tile in the first round is if you don't make good progress, then in the next round you're likely to remain stuck. So um, this black play by my opponent I think is a mistake because when I take one black, they are going to give me 3 yellow. So um, I don't I don't understand, I guess, why going for row 2 black um, was necessary there. So we're off to a pretty strong start. Yeah, so for example, like my opponents, I mean, they might be able to finish white this round. I don't like have great ways to defend it, but when there are a lot of tiles of one color in round 1, obviously it's less likely they'll be there in round 2, and so you can kind of end up a little stuck. But let's talk about what we want to do. So we have flexibility on row 2 with blue or red. Um, defending white is going to be pretty hard. Obviously, we want to work on black. And also, like, defending yellow for my opponent's going to be hard, row 3 yellow. So I think for now, we'll just focus on making sure that we make progress on this row 5 black. And depending on how my opponent proceeds, like, we'll look for opportunities to kind of group stuff up on them. Um, but it may not be easy. Okay, I think I'll take 1 yellow for row 1. So just getting the first player tile, um, putting a little bit of stress on there. Yeah, so even like well, I don't think I'm going to group, but even just taking this 1 yellow, even though there were still 2 available, now this one's in the middle. So like now I can make a play that potentially just forces them to take that yellow. So I get to take my black regardless. Okay. Yeah, so this will work out nicely. I'll just take 1 white to prevent them. They have to take the red. And then I'll get my row 3 blue started off. So kind of just played to stay flexible in that round. Didn't make like major defensive plays. Just was going to be challenging to do that based on what my opponent had open and what tiles were available. But we did manage to make them take some negatives. So 3-point lead. Reasonably nice draw for us. We have some flexibility on row 2. My opponent wants 2 yellow. Hard to say if we'll be able to defend it. They might be able to go for 3 red. And of course, we're not going to be able to stop 1 white. We might actually be able to start working on the 4th column. So let's try to get some whites in the center. Interesting. Okay, so they're just like jumping into securing whites for the remainder of the game. So there's only 5 left. So not a terrible strategy for them. Okay, let's go for 2 blue. And I do like the idea of grouping up these black. I don't have a great way to do it. I don't really want this one white or the one yellow. Um, so let's take one blue for row one. Okay. So we don't have many more like scoring priorities this round. Um, and we can't get stuck with big negatives because our rows 4 and 5 are open. So let's just defend this red play. Okay, so now we have to decide how we want to, like where we want to contribute in these bottom rows. So one option is to like start building row 4 black. The other option would be to start building row 5 white. And I don't love row 5 white because there are only 5 whites left and I'm going to want some for my upper rows. So the problem is taking 2 black and then my opponent takes 2 black is I'm going to get stuck with those 3 white anyway. So I would probably end up playing them. So this is an interesting spot. If I take 1 yellow, I give my opponent 4 black. But then they're going to get stuck with the 3 whites. And the 4 black isn't really worth anything to them. So I think maybe I actually like that best. And I'll actually play this 1 blue. So kind of a weird decision or set of decisions at the end, and maybe I didn't put myself in the best situation there, but we are up by 12. And you can see like giving my opponent this 1 black for 1 point was probably worth giving them the extra -6 or -5, whatever it ended up being. So it can feel weird to give your opponent like free points, so to speak, but that number of points was pretty low. Okay, so the challenge with this round is that there's only 1 white left, so we really want row 2 white at least. But yeah, I don't really want these 2 black. So if I take 2 black, then I'm basically giving up on row 2 white altogether. So I'm actually just going to take the 1 black. And this is like additionally nice because my opponent also wants 1 black. So yeah, now they're paying the extra -2 to get it. So let's go for the row 2 white. So we'll start working towards that. And let's group these reds together. So now my opponent is at a minimum taking, yeah, those reds. Okay, and we have a decision actually. We could go for row 3 red right now. But I don't see a good reason to. So there's a chance my opponent takes these reds for like row 4, row 5, but there's not enough yellows. Well, there's enough yellows with this round to like build out this column. But there's not enough whites to build the center column. So we'll see what they do with those reds, and we will react accordingly. If they play them on row 4, then I'll consider taking the 3 yellows for my row 5. But if they play them on row 5, then I'm not going to worry about the threat of a second column. Also worth remembering, there's only 1 white left, so we don't really want this. We don't want these two whites for row 3. That's a trap. We'll end up, stuck either on row 1 or row 3. Okay, so we'll take these yellows as discussed. Okay, so now there's a question of whether to play these blacks, and I think we can safely do it. We will need 1, 2, 3 blacks of the 4 remaining. So we could get defended, but like this isn't really a tile that my opponent wants. They really want like blue. So let's play these blacks. And we might have a big enough lead heading into round 5 that, we're going to be pretty safe regardless. So my opponent also needs the 1 white. So we'll see if they go for that, or like some of the blue tiles maybe. Okay, so my option here is like 3 blue versus 1 white. 1 white is obviously more valuable to my opponent and more valuable to me, so we go for that. We will need to be very careful about negatives. So there's a big 5 red potentially coming. The most negatives you can take in a round is -14. So, we have an 18-point lead right now. So hopefully we'll be safe there. Okay, so yeah, this is more or less like, because there's 4 colors in the middle and the 3 that are left in the factory are all contained. There's only 4 total colors left. I can't like manipulate this so that my opponent gets the last pick. So this is just going to play out how it plays out, and we will have enough points to comfortably win here. So we can, I think we actually just want to take the blues. The yellow is only worth 1 point and then -1. So if we took the yellows, we'd get 1 point, but then we'd be taking 3 reds for -6. So by taking the blues, we go -5. And I guess it would have come out even since we didn't score that point. But yeah, another healthy win here. Okay, let's do another. So these games are also going a little more quickly. I just checked the recording time and we're at 34 minutes. And typically it has taken me like an hour and 10 to do a 3-episode or a 3-game episode. So even with the talking at the top of the episode, already through 2 games in 33 minutes. So depending on how long the next game takes, maybe I'll be able to go for 4. Did I click the view games you can't join button by accident? Yeah. Okay, we have a 5-11. We have gotten to go first every game so far, which is nice. So looking at this draw, um, this does look like a nice draw for column two. Not the worst draw for any of the middle columns, really. But one problem is that the blacks and reds are grouped together, so I'm not really like enticed to take one of them and just give my opponent a group of two and the first player tile. Um, so this is an interesting choice. I could go for two white on row four, and if my opponent takes the other two white, then I get two black, and I, kind of get a good start on row four and five. Another option I'm looking at is like row two yellow, just securing row two and then kind of seeing what my opponent does. So I think I'll do that. I kind of like the flexibility. I think this is the type of play that like uh, would be up for a lot of debate uh, among all players, high level players, low level players. Um, so I could imagine other players having a pretty strong preference for doing something else there, but I kind of liked where I ended up, and like now I get to play this row four black, and what will happen here is if my opponent takes two black, they're going to give me three red. Um, so no matter what, I would have been happy in that situation. So now, like, it's almost the inverse situation of if I take two black, I'm going to give them four red. So instead of doing that, I am just going to take the two red, and I'm like happy with this progress on these bottom rows, regardless. So, of course, here we will finish out row four. So if I were my opponent, I would have combated um, some of this bottom row development a little bit more. But yeah, I kind of expected to see this actually a pivot from them. So we will take the black so that they don't play it. So I don't actually like I don't dislike what they did here. So pivoting the column. One concern is that white was relatively popular. So yeah, so there's only two white. Um, Kind of a wild draw. So I would say this is not a great draw for us. All of these reds being grouped is pretty bad because we really just want like one red and then two red and then one red. So having all four is not good. There's a lot of black for my opponent, despite it being pretty common last round. And we would also want like row two blue, and the blues are grouped up into a group of three. So not great for us. I want to take this row three blue away from my opponent, so I am going to take the three blue. The question is where to play them. And I think I might play them on row three just because I'm not. Actually, I'm not going to do that. So there's a pretty reasonable chance I end up playing yellows on row three or these reds on row three. So I will just take the three blue for row two and leave my row three flexible. Okay, so yeah, I think this is a mistake because they're not going to finish white and they're not going to finish red this round. I can guarantee both of those. Um, Not that I can guarantee it. Like I can play such that it's guaranteed that they don't finish them, and then they're going to be crossed up for, heading into round 4 or round 3. So let's take the blue. I'm sorry, that was a red. Let's take the red. And we're leaving the white for row 1. Okay, so we'll grab this. Okay, so if I were them, I think I would have prioritized, maybe getting row 2 yellow there, because now they're stuck without a row 2. And I think row 2 yellow is much more important there than row 3 black. Okay, let's take the yellow. So yeah, I think this group of 4 red was almost like a trap. It really like entices you to take it, but this is a bad situation. Another 4 red. That's amazing. Okay, so what do we want to do here? We want 2 red, which is a bummer. And really this is like red is our only option on row 2 because my opponent's going to take 1 white. So there'll only be 1 left and there's only 1 black. So red is our only option on row 2. So I might just take it right now. There's not necessarily a rush to take it, but the only other option is like I take row 1 red, they take row 1 red, and then I get the 4 red. And in that case, they get row 3 blue at a price, but they get it. So I'm going to just take this first, and there's a chance they'll like kind of give me row 3 blue if they decide to like take this red, for example. Okay, so now we get to force their hand on red. And we should pick up row 3 blue. Now, is that the best play? So when you see a good play, look for a better one. I can't stick my opponent with the 5 blue, so I think it is the best play. And they have an interesting decision because obviously they want these 2 blue, but that will group the whites together. And so then I could potentially block them from row 4 white. So I don't know, like, I know what they were going for with this blue, but I've talked about it before. There's like it's a gift and a curse to doing something like this. So there were two rows of 2 blue, or 2 factories with 2 blue on them. And when you do this, you make it so, yeah, you're guaranteed to be able to finish it because the opponent can't stop you. But like now, now that I've taken some of the blues, now their hand is a little bit forced. Yeah, and so they decide on the white. So I think we should just take these blues. They're going to end up taking 3 yellow. And we'll have a nice, 4-point play in the next 2 rounds. So we're up by 12. My opponent still needs to finish out some black tiles here. And I think they maybe jumped the gun on this blue play a bit. They really need to focus on black. So I'm going to go ahead and snatch these three black. So they won't be able to finish row 4 or row 5 black. I am aware that I still need to finish row 3 white. It hasn't been, there haven't been very plentiful white draws, so hoping to pick up these 2 white for row 3 in this round. But let's go ahead and take this yellow, grouping these reds together so that my opponent has to pay extra for this row 1 red, which they do. And let's see. If I take a blue and they take a blue, then I can play 3 black, which is good for me because it blocks them. So there's only 3 black left. So if they don't take at least 1 black on row 4, they are basically not getting a column in the game. And I might not either next round. Like, they'll be able to defend whites and maybe prevent me from getting the column. Okay, so they don't do that. So again, we'll be able to stick our opponent with 3 yellow. Presumably they're going to just play them, which is good. They'll be blocked up on 2 rows, and with 7 whites coming, they won't have anywhere to play white. So other than row 1, but potentially we'll be able to dump some whites on my opponent. Potentially we'll be able to dump some blues on my opponent. There's going to be 4 blues. And we're up by 13, so pretty comfortable. Okay. Not sure about prioritizing the yellows there. So like, they don't need to rush for the blacks because there's 3 of them, but these yellows are worth 2 points, whereas like these reds are worth 6. And so I'm going to make a play to group those 3 reds together. So they now have to pay quite a bit for those reds. Taking the red would have also put 2 whites in the middle, which I probably would have snatched up, but would have put some pressure on whites. Okay. Let's just grab this 1 blue for row 1. We have flexibility on, we can grab this white pretty easily. Yep, so happy to do this. My opponent will end up eating 3 blue at the end, or 3 white. I think best play for them there was actually row 2 red. They should just play that, yeah. They can't play either white or blue, so. Okay, so it's kind of some crazy draws. And we saw like how my opponent mismatched their row 4 and row 5 in round 2 because of that the 4 red draw. It just like looks really enticing, but all it does is like trap you into bad board construction. So you don't have to like invest in big groups like that just because they're there. Or if they are like maybe playing it on row 3 in that case, you take -1 to hopefully get some future adjacency with your row 3 play. So because the games are going faster, only at 50 minutes on the recording, I will go for a fourth. I think this would be the first 4-game episode of the series. And hopefully we get a game soon. Okay, let's just join this other expert game. 548, so right in our range. But they are not starting. Nor are they canceling the game start, though. Okay, I guess we'll look for another. And I guess we'll still be in this one, so if they choose to start it, we can play it. Not entirely sure how that works, actually. Worth noting, I guess last episode, like we did have some higher rated opponents. I think the first expert we played was in the 590s, and then Hello 123 Check is a master level player who was in expert at the time, but I've seen them at 750 plus. So this episode we've had closer to the lower range of the or lower part of the expert range. But yeah, I looked back at some of the plays from the last episode, and some of them were just like completely bewildering. There was a case where I, for some reason, thought my opponent just couldn't play blues, but they had row 5 blue wide open. So yeah, for whatever reason, just completely missed that. So sometimes your brain is just not like in the right place. You're not seeing things or thinking about things the way that you normally do. So generally in those cases, it's good to like take a break. Like if you can feel that you're not playing well, don't try to force it. Just take some time off. But obviously, like recording the video, I'm not going to stop after one game. Maybe I should have stopped after the second game. Not getting any bites on this. Let's see how long it's been. 3 minutes. Okay, so maybe we'll go to like 5 minutes, and if we don't get a game within the next couple minutes, then just call it an episode after three. I would potentially take like this strong game if it wasn't undo confirm disabled. Let's see how. Yeah, 424. That's pretty good. But hopefully we get someone soon. I'm actually surprised some of our like other opponents didn't aren't still around. It's not uncommon for me to play a game, create a new one, and then the same opponent just instantly joins. I never do like the advertising in the general messages. Maybe that would work. All right, just one more minute here and we'll just call it. The opposite of taking time off when you're not playing well is wanting to play more when you are playing well. So obviously, I would love to get another game in, especially after the last episode. I could open it up to strong players, but that feels a little counter to the goal of the series. Oops. It's like quite surprising, actually. I don't know that I've ever waited 7 minutes for a game before. Maybe I typically would just go do something else at this point, but and that's why I've never waited this long. All right, well, let's wrap it up. If someone joins in the last 2 seconds, then we'll play it. But yeah, up to 541. Um, three pretty like dominant wins this video. So a lot of things did go our way. We got to start the game, all three games. Some favorable tile draws for us. But yeah, good to get back on track after the last episode. Happy to get some good gameplay. Would have been extra embarrassing if after last episode I just came out and lost like three more games. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Sorry for the 9-minute wait of with no payoff at the end, but yeah, such as I would have taken that. I would have sacrificed the undo confirm disable just to to play one more, but it disappeared too quickly. So okay, I will call it there. Thanks for watching and see you next time.